To anyone tuning in early, you are currently watching a light bulb being changed in real time. It's actually not a light bulb. I can reveal that it's some form of socket, exclusively from the scene, Canton Ashrawi. Is this thing on? Hello everyone, good afternoon, and welcome to this, the third international live-streamed Compass product demo. This is very exciting and always the most terrifying part of my quarter. I'm joined here by a lovely array of speakers who will dazzle you over the next 60 minutes with some of the work that we've been doing on Compass over the last 3 months, 4 months. So welcome if you're here. There's about, I'm going to guess, 50 people in the room here at CNI HQ. This is also streamed to every one of the 11 owned and operated Compass markets around the world. So welcome if you are in, I'm going to try and name them, the UK, Spain, France, Italy, Germany, Mexico, India, Russia, China, Taiwan, or Japan. Michelle Seed is nodding. Yes. Welcome also for the first time to anyone from Condé Nast US who's watching. So we've extended this invitation now to our US colleagues as well. Delighted to have you on the stream. So the purpose of today is just to share what we've been working on. There is possibly time at the end for questions, but mostly it's just about 50 minutes of talking. If you do have questions, go ahead and join the Compass Demo Slack channel. You should be in the CNI Slack and you should have access to that. If you drop questions in there as you go, and we'll either answer them offline, or if we've got loads, we'll kind of sit people down at the front and do questions at the end. Could I ask, what I need is a couple of glamorous assistants to wheel this whiteboard into view. I've got one, yeah, I've got two. So we've got Angelo Ripoll and Crystal Hirschhorn here, the glamorous assistants for this whiteboard moving demonstration. That's good. Your task is done. Thank you for your contribution. Before we started, I wanted to give a sense of the atmosphere here at CNI HQ and how the product development teams are thinking and kind of where we're at. And I couldn't think of a better totem, kind of spiritual manifestation than this whiteboard, which almost certainly you can't read, but I'll tell you what's on it, which is a list of all of the Compass launches that are coming over the next 3 months. And there are quite a few of them. How many are there, Michelle? Before the end of the year? 14-ish. So it's happening. It's happening on a scale that's kind of breathtaking to me. The thing that we've been dreaming about, talking about, working on for the last 2 years is actually rolling out at scale now. We have the first ever GQ launching on Compass in around about 2 weeks, which seems like a very, very little time from now. It's GQ France, and I have to start by saying an enormous thank you to the team in France who've helped us make this possible. We can dispense with the whiteboard now, if you could. Thank you, Angela. And so most of the first half of the agenda today is some of the kind of foundational work that we've done to enable those launches over the next 3 months. So we're going to hear a little bit more about GQ and how far we've got on the design. We're going to hear about some of the latest template releases and all of the work we've been doing on our web platform. I'm really excited that we have Nicole Holtzmark with us, who's going to come up and speak in a moment. And she's our head of commercial data platforms and products. Almost. So she's going to talk about some of the fantastic dashboards that you're going to get and the other commercial capabilities that you get when you get Compass. So that's really exciting. And then looking a bit further into the future, Nusha's going to give us an update on all of the work we're doing around fashion shows. And in the absence of Roman Deville, who's the product manager for Chromo, which is our new asset management system, I'll finish off by telling you a little bit more about that. Great, that's it. So without further ado, I will introduce you to Alexander Theobald. Alex, we poached from Condé Nast Germany around about 2.5 weeks ago, and is with us for a period of time. He was the central person in the migration of Vogue DE around the end of last year. He led the product team in Germany. He is an absolute superstar product manager and one of the nicest people you could meet. So here is Alexander Theobald.
Thank you. Great, so no pressure there. Thanks, Kentlin. Yep, probably then I'll skip the introduction because Kentlin did a very good job, probably better than I would have done. As said, before I joined CNI, I was the Compass champion at Germany when Vogue DE launched back then last year. So we thought it might be a good idea to come over to CNI, which I did 2.5 years ago, and I'm now working together with all the other markets and try to answer as many questions before the launch around product and scope and so on. And so this is one part of my role now, and the other part is being product manager of Flyway. And Flyway is the tool we are using to bring old content, or the content that's on the old systems within the markets, to the new platform. And so the development of Flyway has been going on for quite a while, and that's why I quickly like to introduce somebody who has been with the project for a bit longer than I have, which is a fantastic project manager, Ollie Cannon, which some of you might have known. Could we have a quick round of applause, please? Thanks. And Ollie will share a few words on our roles, basically, and how especially you guys in the markets will work with us in the future, so that you know how to reply to anyone. And
thanks, Alex. I'm just going to step into the middle so everyone on the screen can see me. So I'm the project manager for Flyway. We've got a whole team of us here. They're actually all over today, which is fantastic to see everyone here. So essentially my role is managing the delivery of the Flyway product. I'll also be working with you folks out in the markets when you come to onboard, and sort of working through some of the launch readiness stuff that both we need to do here at CNI and that we'll need to sort of support you with in the markets as well, to make sure that you're up to speed with everything you need to be done, so you're ready to onboard onto Compass and make it a successful couple of launches. So Alex and I share a few responsibilities, so you'll both be interacting with us a little bit. But obviously I'm more focused on the delivery element of things, timelines, that sort of stuff, and Alex is for all your scope, product, features, all that fantastic product management kind of stuff that he's done so well before, that he's bringing the skills here for us. So yeah, so you'll be interacting with both of us, but there's a little bit of split in responsibilities there. So yeah, I won't waffle on too much longer. I'll hand back to Alex now. Thank you.
thanks, Ollie. And if you have any question around football, Ollie is probably a good person to talk to as well. Big Manchester United fan, as I have. All right. What did we do, or what did the team basically do? I didn't do that much around Flyway, to be fair. And what did they achieve for the last couple of during the last couple of months? Because migration is always a bit difficult to somehow get what they're basically doing. So they built a tool, and in the last couple of months, just a few numbers for you. They started migrating content and iterating and getting better at that. And until now, they migrated up to 550,000 articles from an old platform to the new platform, getting better each time and trying to improve as good as possible. Migrated 150,000 articles. And as Kentlin said, GQ France will be the first market that will, or the first GQ that will move to Copilot in a couple of days. They achieved with the fantastic French team a success rate of 99.9%. So what does that mean? That means that all the content, or almost all the content that was in the old system, will look as expected in the new system, which is a fantastic job they did in the last couple of days. And I think maybe we can have a round of applause for that as well. This is a great accomplishment. And we also get asked from time to time, how long does it take to migrate content? So pulled a number for the last, this is for the last prod migration for GQ France, right? So there are around 218 articles per minute. So you can, I'm not good at math, to be honest. So you can take that number and scale it however you like. So that this is, and we're trying to increase that in the future, even more. So as said, the team started working on the tool. I won't bother with that anymore, around January. And what I'd like to mention is what they also did were what we call tech kickoffs. So they engaged with the markets, sometimes on site, maybe sometimes the markets came to London as well, and worked together with the teams, with the engineering teams to map the data, making sure that the headline in the old system will stay a headline in the new system, basically that. 2 weeks ago, the lovely Taiwanese team was here in London, and we did that session. I think they accomplished back then only 2 days to migrate an article, I think, which is also great work by the teams. And this will continue in the next couple of months. So next month, the team will fly to Japan and have the ticket off with the team there. And a month later, the Russian team will come to London and we'll have this here. So why are we doing this? Basically, in the end, to go live with a website. And Kenton already gave you an overview on that lovely board. I put that on a slide so that you can maybe see it a bit better. What will happen in the next couple of months is, so we're preparing currently, and everybody's really excited about getting GQ France to the new platform. Vogue Italy are the next that will follow in October, and from that on, as you see, we have almost 3 brands and brands per month that will move to the new platform, which means basically launch every week, which is quite a challenge. We're really looking forward to it. So in March, there are some, you see, Taiwan, Japan, and China. The launch dates haven't been fixed yet, so that's why a bit grayish back there. But this is because I think most of the markets have been communicated to individually, so you know when you're launching, but this maybe gives you a good overview about everyone else out there who will move to the new platform. All right. That's basically it for me. So I'll say thank you. If you have any questions, please Slack them, and maybe we'll clarify them later, or we'll answer them right away. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. Alex is incredibly kind of self-effacing about all these things, but I think the first production migration ever since Vogue D of GQ France last week at a 99.9% success rate is an extraordinary and incredible achievement. So well done to all of them. Up next is Sue Vargo, who's going to talk to us about all the latest since last demo on GQ.
Hello. Hello, everybody. So it's quite a while since I've been up here again with my boards and pictures and stuff. So last time we were talking about the kind of turbocharged design sprint we did around GQ to try and pick out a direction for the design language. So we were looking at these boards. I was talking you through these boards in terms of digital landscape, color, typography. And we also showcased a few directions for the layouts, one of which was this monochrome one with a twist of neon color, which went down very well internally. And in feedback sessions with the markets, it was the preferred direction. So since we last spoke, we've been doing lots of iterations around that, and we have distilled it into the GQ design language with the typeface, the treatments of the teasers, the color palettes, and on the far side you begin to see, so we're flooding it out to the avatars for the social platforms, and we're looking at how we can translate the language into quote cards for Instagram and things like that, to just kind of join up the brand a bit across the different platforms. So with that language, we then were able to create some pages, which is good for GQ because we need them in a couple of weeks' time. So we've got the homepage, article, gallery, and video. So rather than walk you through all of them, I thought I would just play this and then talk while we're going. So part of the process, we user-tested these designs in various ways. One of them, we user-tested them with 6 GQ users, 4 men and 2 women from the ages of 23 to 38. And they were engaged digital GQ UK readers. And thankfully, they appreciated the simplicity and also the directness of the layouts. They noticed and understood the visual hierarchy, and they actually found it quite easy to read and appreciated that information was in small chunks, and they liked the image-first approach to most of the page templates. What was interesting, and I think I always kind of forget it, but I quite like it, is that it was quite hard to get the users to concentrate on the design when we were user testing it, because they immediately began engaging with the content, which is great from an editorial point of view, but I also think that means that also the design isn't getting in the way of people consuming the content, so the engagement through the design is still quite valid. So that's where we are with GQ. I just don't know if I can stop this. Here's just a few quotes from that particular user testing session. So modern, minimalist, more fun, a bit younger, and contemporary were all adjectives that were used from the people that actually were shown the prototypes. And yeah, there were things that didn't work. So people didn't understand the typographic hierarchy of the menus, for example. So we picked out the main core USPs of the brand that can be configured by market and gave those more prominence in the navigation. But people weren't understanding why, for example, politics was so small compared to tech, things like that. And also another one that was quite interesting was the kickers, which are these little things here that come at article level and at homepage level. And for example, they didn't understand what long reads was. It's like, what is that? How long is it? It's not actually giving me any information. So editorially, that was quite interesting, how we want to make those more meaningful. So we haven't actually addressed, for example, these 2 points. They are on a backlog stroke wish list for iteration. But it's just quite interesting to see how people react to stuff. That is more or less it for GQ. Nathan later is going to go through the templates in more detail. But I just thought I'd touch on article designs for Vogue, because last time, which was a very long time ago, they weren't ready. So they are ready now and they're being built. But I thought it'd be interesting to show you the template of the design, which I obviously should have loaded on Cantler's machine first, which was one of the latest ones that we user tested. So we've got this big image hit at the beginning, and it tested really well to have the image and the heading material at desktop in view. People really responded to that well. And this is currently what's more or less being built in Atelier and going through to Rocket. But that's obviously not where we started. How do I go back to full screen? That one. That one. Oh, yeah, sorry. That's obviously not where we started. We tested before that with users different article toppers. So there was this initial 50-50 split article topper, and then a far more traditional layout for article level. And because this one tested so well in the early test, that's why we decided to pursue it. But other elements that were in the first article prototypes, like this topward onward journey, didn't test very well. People thought it was an ad, and I suppose that's not surprising. It looks a bit like a kind of Google ad. And similarly, this, which we thought might be quite a nice visual onward journey at the end of the article, people thought was an ad. And people were passing it, which is good for you, Nicole. And people were passing over these gallery calls to action. So these are the areas where we have been able to modify the design going forward. And so we made this far more obvious, the gallery call to action, and this inline onward journey, which sadly isn't going to be built for launch. It's been stripped back because of our MVP, along with our drop cap, but it will arrive soon. But it's just to show the testing process and how we try to then work on the results and evolve the designs. And I know that last time I was talking about how sometimes the brand can feel quite fragmented, and I thought this might be interesting to show in terms of how the design language is beginning to flood out through the different platforms. So we've got a gallery layout for the new Compass Vogue design. On the far right here, we've got some screen grabs from Vogue en Español, which is the Spanish language Snapchat Discover editions that we're doing. And that's where, in collaboration with Sarah's team, who've been fantastic about taking on and trying to integrate and experiment with this new brand language, we're beginning to see the brand typography being used and certain brand furniture being used. And the same for GQ. It's obviously earlier days, but again, we've run the social avatars out, and we're looking at these Instagram cards just to begin to maintain that integrity across the brands, across a single brand, across all the markets and across different platforms, so that as a user, you begin to make very, very strong associations with that brand, whatever platform you encounter the content on. So that's it from me. That's where we are. Cantlyn's going to come back and do another outro, intro.
You didn't talk about the lime.
Shall I talk about the line?
Do you want to? You really don't, I know. Talk about the lime.
I have a Lime laptop case, which thankfully isn't here. No, it's part of that earlier user testing that I described. We did also test reactions to the colour. We did a whole set of mobile designs for those templates that I've showed, both using the lime and using a vibrant blue, and it's split very much 50-50 in the user testing. So every market call we have with designers and directors, we ask, which do you prefer? And again, there was no consensus, and we're never going to get a consensus around colour. And I suppose the product team are keen to move away from this association of very gender-specific blue for boys. Adjectives that were used in the user testing around the lime was that it was zesty, it was fresh, it was memorable. So I think those are all quite good reasons to use the lime. So we are going for lime, Cantlyn.
Thank you, Sue. Zesty. That's what we need. Great. So up next we have Nathan Telford. Nathan, how long have you been with us? 6 weeks. Very good. So Elena took over, Nathan took over from Elena's very big shoes that she left 6 weeks ago, and has been doing an absolutely fabulous job. And he's going to take you through some of the new template stuff that we've been working on the website.
Thank you, Cantlyn. Hello, everybody. Hello. Yeah, so I wasn't here for the last demo, so the first thing I did was look at the deck for the last one to see what was in that. And it said, next up, homepage. I'm really happy to say that the homepage is now completed and it's live, and you can actually go and look at it on Vogue Germany. It's actually in use. The nice thing about the homepage is it's configurable by each brand and market. So if you do go and look at Vogue Germany, that's not the layout you have to have for every market. Every market can configure this separately. It's built up a combination of what we call slices, which is basically horizontal content pieces, as a combination of editorially curated slices and some that are automatically generated as well. And we've got a few different options in there. So we've got what we call a full width, which is fairly obvious, a 50-50, and a 4-up. And I'll take you through those. So this is the full width slice. A lot of our brands have a history of really strong photography, so we're really pushing that and making sure this is still front and center. This is really high impact stuff. And it scales the user's viewport as well. So if you're looking at this on desktop, you get this great, awesome, like big picture. But also if you're using a mobile, it's still going to give you as much screen space as you can to like really get the impact out of that. This one is editorially created. Wow, that's a really hard word to say. So you can basically pick whatever you want to go in there to really push a piece of content hard. This is what we call the 50-50 slides for obvious reasons. Half the screen is taken up by a lead teaser. The other half is a collection of related content. Nice thing about this is that it does have, whilst it's pushing the content hard, we do have ad slots in there as well, because we do have to commercialize this. And it's configured so if there isn't any advertising being trafficked on this particular piece, then those will collapse and they'll be replaced with other teasers. So you get a seamless collection of content without any gaps in it. And again, this scales to the different viewports. And this is the 4UP. This one is automatically generated. We're aware of the markets have limited resources, so you don't necessarily want to have to curate every single item of content on the homepage. Well, this is driven by a collection of tags and categories. So this, for example, is pulling in the latest articles from the gourmet category. You can combine this with tags, so you could look for everything that's tagged with London Fashion Week. Or you could have a combination of the two, so you could get everything that's in gourmet but not tagged, and exclude everything that's tagged with something particular. Again, this has a native ad slot in there because we do need to commercialize these things. And we have an onward journey to take you into everything in that category or that covers that query. So, the article pages, these are the ones that Sue kind of gave you a quick preview of earlier. So, the focus of the site is the content. That's what really brings readers in. That's what gets people looking at our content. So what we're aiming for is to provide a tool set that lets editors make the most of their content and get some really great stuff out there. And we're supporting a lot of rich media and social media embeds as well, so we can bring the outside world into the site. So we're starting off the article page with, as Sue said, the topper. This is, again, pushing the really strong photography. You notice on here we also have social media icons, so we can push the content out into other channels, which is great. And these are also configurable. So, for example, if you're in a market that doesn't have Facebook or doesn't have much usage of Facebook, we can take that out. But we could, for example, put in a link icon for Japan. So we can make this very tailor-made and very specific to the markets. Moving on to the more the richer content. So this is the outcome of the testing for a gallery embed. So if you're going through an article and you can link out to something that's related, and we've got a collection of photos out there, this is a way to get the user to realize there are photos out there you can go and look at. We've got image embeds as well. One interesting thing about this is you'll notice the ad on the right is the same as the previous slot. This is actually a piece of content on the same page. So some of the markets already have the concept of sticky ads, which is as you scroll down the page, an ad will come onto the screen and it will stay there as you scroll down until the next one comes up, and then it'll scroll off. And some of the markets have been using this to great effect, so we've implemented this, and we can roll this out to all the markets now, so this should be available for all teams. Again, we have some fantastic images. I love the fact somebody's carrying her own head. It was the creepiest image I could find. Caption in here also supports Markdown, so we can do things like include a link. So if we have, say we're promoting a clothing item from Farfetch, you can actually link out to Farfetch through the caption. What else do we have? So here are some of the rich media things we have. You can embed Instagram and Twitter feeds. No presentation is complete without a video of a cat. And we can even embed Spotify playlists. And that brings us on to the galleries. So the galleries are designed as a seamless scrolling experience. The way I think of this is it makes it really easy to just pour photos into your head. They're absolutely beautiful. And this is, again, supporting the brand's rich photographic heritage. We want to make a lot of these images. So the images also scale to the user viewport. So if you're looking on a big screen, you get a big screen full of photos. If you're looking at a mobile screen, you just get that whole screen, like as much visual impact as possible. So the lead into a gallery, again, is this big impact, high, very visual, very strong lead image. Again, we've got kind of the description of the Vogue, but we've got the social media icons, which you can't actually see, but are actually in these circles just here. And again, this is so we can push the content out into other streams. And again, that is also configurable by brand and market, so we can make this appropriate to whoever is looking at it. The photos themselves, again, it's all about the imagery. It's really powerful. It gets as much screen space as we can give it, and yeah. Again, it needs to be merchandised as well, so we do have ad slots within this. There are some in the side columns. We have interspersed display units as you scroll down the page as well. And there are some things that aren't immediately obvious from looking at the templates. It's very easy to see big photos and things like that. But there's actually some really cool stuff gone into this that isn't immediately obvious. So the whole thing is brand agnostic, which lets the different brands in the different regions express themselves very individually. Again, some of the markets have AMP support. This is accelerated mobile pages, so this Google thing. And this basically gets you very, very fast content when coming in through Google. So some of the brands already support this. We've implemented it, so we can now roll this out to all the markets and all the sites. We've also added in lots of social sharing metadata, which means that when somebody does hit one of those social sharing icons and embeds something in their Twitter feed, it won't just show up as a link, it will show up as a rich media embed. You'll get photos in there. Same thing for Facebook, and Open Graph just gets you general metadata that's accessible from anybody linking to this content. And because these are all reusable components, it means that anything we learn from launching a site and anything we find that we can make better, when we roll that out, it will roll out to all the brands. So when we roll out GQ later this month, it is later this month, beginning of next month, we're going to learn lots of things about how customers interact with this. We're going to learn things about how it commercializes and where the ad views are coming from. Everything we learn from that can roll back into the site, and that will make the next launch that little bit better, and the next one a little bit better. And it will improve everything for everybody across the board. So I think that is about it for me. We're going to be moving on to supporting launches from here on and improving the commercial capabilities.
Thank you, Nathan. God, that was a lot. Thank you very much. So for the first time, we have a data person in the product demo, which I'm absolutely delighted about. Woo! Data! Not just any data person, but Nicole Holtzmark. The real Nicole Holtzmark is here with us in this building. I've had the pleasure of working with Nicole for a couple of years. They've been very, very good. She is one of the most difficult stakeholders I or anyone else has to work with, because she works incredibly hard and she knows more than you do about everything. So Nicole's going to take us into a very deep and nerdy place. Do go with her on this journey. The outcome is quite good.
Thank you. A deep and nerdy place. Right, so I'm Nicole, and I look after our, is this working? Right. I look after our commercial platforms, and in the context of Compass, members of my team work very closely with product and engineering to ensure that all of these tools are implemented correctly on the new platform. You may have had the pleasure so far of working with, say, Courtney, Cecily, Felix, or Bijou. They are all focused on Compass. In other projects outside of Compass, you might have worked with Rebecca, or Fran, or Eugene, or Lindsay, and those are all members of my team focusing on commercial platforms. So first things first, we need some data to work with. Our primary tool that we work with used to be called DFP until very recently. Now it's called Google Ad Manager. And earlier this year, we established that the user interface was not giving us what we needed. It was not detailed enough. It wasn't letting us pull enough out. So we've started working with Google to pipe the records directly into BigQuery. So on a daily basis, Google now dumps 150 million rows-ish, depending how many campaigns there are, into our BigQuery file. They take the form of about 8 tables that require 26 further mapping tables just to make sense of them because they don't contain labels. And what it ultimately means is that we now have 8 billion rows and counting every day piped into these 2 files. These 2 files are going to support inventory and campaign analysis. And the other file is containing information that allows us to connect ad server information with Google Analytics. And we're going to need that for Compass when we come to optimize and do advanced analytics. We have, of course, done this as a starting point for CNI. So this table contains data for all platforms, not just Compass. And the next step, or a natural progression from here, is to create market-specific tables that can be used locally to support local analysis. So first, we did it for ourselves just to confirm we can do it. It matches, it's specific, it's correct, and it aligns. Next, we're going to support Compass to optimize, but in parallel, we're also very soon going to create and share market tables. So next, I'm going to show you, in the context of Compass, what we're doing with some of those tables. There's two primary areas where we are providing support. One is helping to ensure that we are launching these websites correctly. As you saw on the board and earlier, we have many launches coming up back to back. So we want to make sure that after launch, it's very quick for us to confirm, yep, that was correct. Everything is tracking and counting correctly onto the next one. Prior to launch, we do a lot of manual checking. After launch, we want to be able to do this really quickly. So we took that big old 8 billion row table and piped it into Data Studio. And we've built this dashboard. This is just a screen grab. It's actually much longer than this because it contains a lot of tables layered on top. It allows us to slice all of this information by page type, by category, subcategory, and specifically ad positions. And what we have is largely 3 sort of buckets of information. This is the primary information that comes from DFP ad unit structure. We have the matching information in the key value because every position on Compass is identifiable through the ad unit and the key value. And if you're working with DFP, you'll appreciate how valuable that is. And then for good measure, we've also added a 3rd column where we're looking for the matching information in Google Analytics. Now, normally, what we have found is that the ad server information in Google Analytics rarely matches. But in the case of Compass, we're actually seeing discrepancies of less than 1%, which is pretty exciting because Google develops a lot of tools assuming that we can always use it, and that's not always the case. But it will be now. And also on this dashboard, I wanted to lift out one of my favorite parts. This is the nerdy place. In the ad unit and the key value and in Google Analytics, we have detail of what page template is in use. So we can see in this table index, homepage, article. But of course, there's lots of different types of index. An index design can be used for a contributor page, for a tag page, or for a category section. And normally the ad server wouldn't care because you're focusing on optimizing the template, not specifically that slice of the template. But because we know we're going to want to do that analysis, we've added key values to also pull in tag, subcategory, contributor, and category. And again, these numbers are aligning close enough with Google Analytics. So we can pull audience engagement metrics from Sid Shah's team and align it with ad server information about how the ads are performing. Secondary nerdy place. Down here on that configurable homepage that both Sue and Nathan showed you, there's different slices, and those are configurable. So how do we analyze how well a homepage is doing in terms of ad serving? Well, we can't if they're all different and if position 3 is loading in a different place in Germany versus France. So we have a key value here for slice, full width, 4 up, and 50/50, which will come to bear when we start having more than one homepage to compare. When Compass comes to your market, everybody will get a copy of this because it's also a handy place to see how the tagging spec actually works. So assuming everything goes well with the launch, we then have a website that we need to optimize. And we need to optimize it for audience engagement, of course, but the part that my team is more focused on is on the commercial KPIs. Back in March, we defined a number of KPIs. This was before we had designs and before we knew what we were building exactly. We defined that there would be a target of 3 display ads per page, average, across all devices, and for everything that's not a gallery. Bearing in mind that we're introducing lazy loading, 3 is a good target. We have a corresponding target of 0.7 per gallery image on a gallery, but we are probably going to convert that currency when we have a bit more data because we have gone with a scrolling gallery rather than sliding. We have a corresponding matching target with it for 70% viewability. Of course, this is the measure of whether an ad was seen or not. Our advertisers would quite like for that to be 100%, which is not physically possible, but 70% is a really strong target, and that's what we've settled on. So in order to monitor our performance against these targets and also have a fighting chance of optimizing them, we've built a second dashboard, but it's piped from the same mega data of 8 billion rows and counting. This dashboard also leverages the ad unit structure to slice to all the places that we need to go. and it includes, for good measure, a reminder of the targets here at the top. This data is from last month, before articles launched and before gallery launched, so these numbers are not necessarily reflective of the designs that are going live on GQ-FR. We will have updated data for the next demo, of course. But right now, we're not too far off the mark. We have a 57% viewability on this slice of data that I've given you here for Vogue DE, and we're hitting 2.4, 2.5 on the ad ratio. Good place to start. This screen grab also demonstrates my favorite part, nerdy place, of the ad unit structure, which is called level 5. It's where the position information is held. So this chart here has blue for display, yellow for out of page, red is a page counter, and which should largely align to page views, and green is native display. One of the biggest barriers we have to doing any sort of CNI level analysis is that the labeling of this in our current platforms is completely inconsistent and in many cases not even there. So the fact that we can provide an automatically updated chart for Compass is going to be a game changer for how much business analysis we can do in future. Again, this is an example of a dashboard that will arrive with Compass to your market and can be used as a template or added to with data from your existing platforms, because it's all in that 8 billion rows. I've lifted out a section on viewability here, so that this dashboard that we're seeing examples of has 6 pages. Each page is quite long. There's a lot of information, but that's because that's what we need in order to decide what to do when we're optimizing. This demonstrates viewability by page template, so gallery, article, homepage index, and by subcategory. And really all we see in seeing these two side by side is that viewability is quite volatile no matter what we do. There's no design changes happening here, but there is a mixture of user engagement, connection speeds, file weight for the creative sizes that are running on campaigns right then. So we can see trends, but what you need to know is also what's happening in the context of the business. When we launch new designs or when we make changes, they'll show here whether we've hit the mark. And the other target was ad ratios, which is just the term we use for the average number of ads per page. Don't expect you to be able to see this, but this is just to demonstrate the level of detail we will be providing for product and design and the rest of the team to hypothesize what do we need to change to drive these metrics up. So we have a line graph for every device type and every page type. And again, if we're going to make a change on a particular template, I would expect to see these results showing up from the next day. And we'll know if it's working. Similar to everything we do with this dashboard, it's a lot of information, but without business context, you're not really getting it, because you might think, well, we're hitting the target with tablet, let's just do more of that. But of course, there's very little volume contributing to the average from tablet pages, so we would probably not put as much effort into changing those particular layouts. So on top of business context, we also still have that famous level 5 that I love so much that tells us not only was it display or native or out of page, but it also tells us exactly which position on the page it was, because they count 1, 2, 3, 4 until infinity. And we have these two charts here of display and native showing roughly where the breakpoint falls off currently in this data set. The good news that we can see in here automatically is that this blue bar on 1 and 2 for display is smartphone. And on smartphone, the first position is the only position that loads with the page. Everything else is lazy loaded. But we're getting a really healthy contribution from that second mobile position, which means users are scrolling enough to see that second ad. And we have some work to do on native. So all of what I've shown you so far is very helpful for optimizing Compass, but what our designs are going, or sort of the design of the structure is also going to give us is a lot of opportunity to optimize at market level for business decisions. I've got one example here. It's not sell-through rate, but that is the obvious example that would follow on, and that's coming soon. This example relates to a particular editorial strategy of applying subcategories to every article or not. In Copilot, it's optional. In the ad server in Google Ad Manager, if you don't apply a subcategory to an article, we mark it unassigned so that we know it's a thing and we just know that it hasn't been given one. This chart here shows that on Vogue DE in this section, almost everything was given a subcategory. So it looks like it's an intentional strategy to always assign one. Maybe it's a habit or leftover. There's a little bit here that is being left unassigned in red. And at market level, you could decide that's either worth investigating or not. And if it is, you have a lot more information about where that's coming from. In this case, it's primarily from the lifestyle section. This is something that will be provided when Compass comes to you, along with a series of other templates that we're developing now to give you an idea of what you can do with the structure. There is the added complexity of existing platform data, so that's the next fun, nerdy place that we will go. Thank you.
Does anyone else still have a brain? I think mine melted halfway through. What a lovely example of all of the things that you don't see that go into this thing that we're building. Q4 is, as we all know, the worst possible time to launch 10 websites. And watching that gives me some confidence that we have people who know what they're doing, making sure that we don't mess this thing up. Right. Now for something completely different. This is what I love about Condé Nast. You can have a presentation about commercial data, immediately followed by one about fashion shows. Over to you, Nisha.
Hello, everyone. I am the product manager for fashion shows. We are the first ever product team that's dedicated solely to fashion shows, both here at Condé Nast International and as well as Condé Nast US. So I want to start by kind of recapping where we're focusing our efforts on this year. So as some of you may know, currently we have 11 markets, as well as Vogue US, independently uploading and publishing hundreds of fashion shows, of the same fashion shows each year. It is labor intensive, it is time consuming, and it's awfully manual. Nobody likes it. Our solution to this is essentially to centralize and automate the fashion show's production processes wherever possible. And aside from the workflow benefits that we're going to see from this, it also enables our Vogue sites to provide the fastest, most comprehensive fashion show coverage whilst maintaining that gold standard that users would expect of Vogue. So some of you may have noticed the recent article that was published in the New York Times last week about CNI. If you read it, you would have known that CNI is currently covering its first ever main fashion season. So we're in London Fashion Week at the moment. This is a huge milestone for CNI, but also for, or I guess for, the markets will also reap the benefits of this milestone once they're rolled onto Compass for fashion shows. And I'll go more into the benefits a little later. So this is the tool that makes it all possible. This is Front Row. We launched Front Row back in March. So it's a fashion show production tool, and it's currently powering Vogue Runway from a data perspective. So we have our lovely CNI Fashion Shows editorial team that will go into Front Row, they'll create shows, they'll input that core fashion show data, so we're talking brand, season, city, address, coverage type, image provider, and all that data as well as the images are automatically ingested into Copilot US, and that's where the Vogue Runway production team goes in and hits publish on each of these shows. So we have Vogue Runway front end up at the top right corner and Front Row down below for the Erdem Spring 2019 ready-to-wear show that just happened. As many of you will know, aside from Front Row, we're also building a new unified fashion shows experience for our markets, which we hope to launch early to 2019. This experience is exciting for a few reasons, but I would say mainly for the fact that it takes out all the work for our markets. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking publishing shows at really odd hours in the night, having to hire freelancers to work weekends, uploading a crazy amount of images. essentially with this experience, each market is only going to be responsible for 3 things, and that's promoting shows throughout the app, hiding shows, and of course adding their locally produced reviews. Everything else, the CNI Fashion Shows team takes care of. Now, when we last demoed, I shared with you the designs for this experience. And I'm proud to say that since then, we've actually pretty much built the whole of the UI. For the interest of time, I'm going to quickly whiz through this experience, but of course, all the links are available on compass.cni.digital if you want to have a browse. So this here is the landing page. We've got the promoted shows at the top. At the bottom is a list of the most recently published shows. That's default curation. And at the very bottom, we have a load more button, and that populates the next 29 shows onto the page, including another ad display to the right of the page. Here we have navigation, so users are going to be able to navigate via both season and brand. So for the seasons, we have a list of them broken out by year. For brand, we have a brand list that is searchable. And of course, clicking on a brand will take you to the respective brand page, and clicking on a season will do the same. The collection page over here. So at the very top, we have a clickable brand and season name. We then have a collapsible review. We have a sticky ad to the right of the imagery, and of course the galleries themselves. Next is the lightbox. So we've kept it really stripped back. Again, focusing on the imagery here, full bleed image. To the left, we have a scrollable film strip. Oh, go back. We have a scrollable film strip. We have the look number, image credit, can't really see it on here, but image credit down below, the back and forth arrows, and a clickable brand and season name. And right now I'm on the France environment, and we currently haven't implemented ads, but you'll notice that if I change the URL to Vogue DE, an ad will appear at the right-hand side, display ad. And lastly, we have season and brand pages. So the season page takes on a very similar design to the landing page. So you'll have, you'll have the promoted shows at the top for that particular season, and then a list of all the shows within that season. And then the brand page, which is accessible via either clicking on a brand name or going directly through the nav itself. You will have the brand name at the top, and then of course all the relevant shows for that brand in reverse chronological order, so with the latest show appearing at the top of the list. And that's it for fashion shows, actually. Our next major milestone is early 2019, when we hope to start rolling out this experience. Very much looking forward to it. And now I'm going to hand it over to Caitlin, who's going to talk to us about Chroma.
Yeah, they're saying early 2019. Yeah, early. Nothing important happens in Q1 of 2019. February, not a critical month. So, early 2019. Good. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Chroma. I think I might go a bit Silicon Valley for this. Just take off the jacket. Go full product management. Okay, Chroma. What on earth is Chroma? Well, Chroma is the new asset management system that we're building here at CNI. It is a thing that manages assets, but in a way it's quite different to any way that we've managed assets in the past. So some of you will know of the Adobe AEM DAM that lots of you will be using out there, which is primarily a print archive focused on our print material. And the focus of Chroma is quite different. Chroma is integrated tightly into Compass and works very closely with Copilot, both in the data layer and with Front Row on the user experience layer. Now, most asset management systems, if you've used an asset management system, exist to promote content reuse. The basic idea is, hey, if I tag all my content really well, then editors can log in and they'll be able to find that content, and then instead of commissioning more content, they can reuse the stuff we already have, and we save money as a company. That's kind of usually how I would be talking about DAMs. That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is trying to unlock the value of that content in a bit more of an abstract way. What we want to be able to do is build new products and services on top of our rich semantic understanding of the fashion world and other domains. So it takes a bit more explaining. It's not just about efficiency, it's not just about content reuse. Let's start with fashion shows. So Nusha just talked about our show coverage. That breaks down into about 19,000 shows. That's what Vogue Runway have accrued over the last 10-ish years. Not clear on the time frame. Over some time. There's about 1,600 brands, 250 seasons. We think this is probably the most comprehensive fashion shows data set that exists in the world. If it isn't now, it will be pretty soon. The problem with that data is that it breaks down at the most granular level into an individual look. You know, each person who walks down the runway, a photograph is taken, that's a look. On the basis of each look, we understand almost nothing about the contents of what's happening in that image. Now, computers are quite good at understanding text. They're quite good at extracting semantics from text. They're still not very good at doing it with images, although the world and the art is improving. So Chroma comes into the picture to try and help us understand what's in those images so that our systems can understand what's in those images so that we can do interesting things with that. So we're going to get to a level of product tagging, not just at the level of the image, but the level of each individual component of that image that's going to dramatically improve what we can do with that vast data set. And that's going to apply first to fashion shows and then to the totality of what we produce and deal with as Condé Nast. And we are one of the world's largest photography companies. So 3 key benefits behind Chroma. The first thing it's going to do is deliver a level of search around the fashion shows world that just hasn't really existed before. There are products out there, there's Tagwalk and others, that try and make the runway searchable, but we believe we're going to do that at a level of user experience that just doesn't exist in the market today. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to help connect consumers with the fashion brands that perhaps they don't engage with that they should do. Now, we know a lot about our consumer activity on the sites. We know which brands they look at, we know what shows they consume, but because we don't really understand the underlying looks underneath that, we don't understand really what those brands stand for or what makes them unique or distinctive, we actually can't connect very well that ecosystem. We wouldn't know that because you like brand A, you're likely to like brand B. Chroma is going to help us with that problem. Lastly, if we're comprehensive in that data set, of course, the popularity of those tags and those trends over time is itself a really, really interesting thing. This is monitoring the fashion world as it evolves and changes. And that data is interesting, certainly to us, certainly to our editors, and certainly to people out there in the industry who are in the business of making and selling clothes. So Chroma is an interesting one. I'm very excited by it. I hope we see much more from that team over the next few months. We do have a tiny little demo, because tagging is a sort of a problematic space, right? Tagging things is incredibly boring. I don't know if you've ever tried to tag anything, but it's kind of suicide watch. You really don't want to be in the job that is sitting at your computer every day, clicking on things, typing some stuff in, you know, and we don't want to, you know, fashion shouldn't cost lives. So tagging's boring. Tagging's also super expensive, right? So 150,000 images is the number that we process every year. It would cost a vast amount of money if we were to manually tag all of those to the spec that I've just outlined. So we're kind of fixing these problems in a couple of ways. The first is Chroma's user experience is kind of unrecognizable to anyone who's used the Adobe AEM DAM. It is kind of, and I've talked to the team about this, they are unbelievably perfectionist about every single micro interaction down to hotkeys and all of that. Because it is a power user tool, it will be used by a small number of people who need to be highly productive in the tool. So we're really focusing on the user experience, and I've got a little bit to show you on that in a second. The second thing, of course, is that we shouldn't make human beings do work that computers can do. And as I said, the state of computer vision is still evolving rapidly, and we're at the stage where we can probably identify outlines, sometimes garment types, these kinds of things, although in the world of high fashion that itself can be difficult. But we can certainly do things like identify models, for example. The state of facial recognition is really well advanced. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, Chinese government and others. So there's a lot that we can do on an automated layer, extracting dominant colors, these kinds of things, that make it a lot easier to roll this level of tagging out for a kind of at scale. Helps us get more tags. More tags is good. So lastly, I promised just a very quick demo of this. So this is an image in the tagging playground. And we're saying, so there's different semantic relationships that an image can have, right? All tags aren't created equal. There's the tag, and then there's the relationship of the tag to the asset. In this case, we're saying the person who's in the image is Gigi. We're saying that someone who was involved in the production of it was Annie Leibovitz. We're saying that the whole thing kind of feels like an 80s trend, so we're tagging it with 80s. And then we're saying that there's some products involved in it, like, hey, there's a coat, and the coat belongs to Versace. So this is just kind of getting us started, and I would argue, obviously, for example, that no human being should ever have to tell the system that that's Gigi Hadid. The system should know that already. So there's a lot still to go and do. If you do want to play with this, like everything else that we've discussed today, it's available at compass.cni.digital. And although it doesn't do very much yet, we do believe in just putting these products out there and letting people play with them. So you can do that, and you can access kind of pretty much everything else that we've talked about today. Okay, cool. Compass, it's a thing. I would love to thank Nusha, Alex, Nathan, Nicole, and Sue for going through this kind of nerve-wracking experience with me. Can we give them a round of applause? We are running over time, so I think we're going to wrap it up there. If you do have any questions about what you've seen today, just drop them into the Compass Demo Slack channel, or talk to the relevant product manager or whoever you heard present. And do send us feedback on how these demos are as well. We've been playing with the AV tech in here to try and get it a bit easier if you're on the stream to be able to see what's going on the screens. So is it working? Is it not? Please do let us know. Thank you very much. Goodbye.